Hi everybody, you're back with Better Me, Better Us, and it's episode 3. So today we're going to be talking about social media. Hayley, what is your experience of social media now or growing
up? Social media, didn't exist when I was a child, Vicky. So when I was younger, there was no such thing as social media. There wasn't even any mobile phones until I was a very late teenager. And I actually feel quite privileged having no social media when I was young, because I now live at home with 2 teenage girls. Social media is the bane of my life and their life at times. When things are difficult for them, they can't escape those difficulties because they follow them home. In the 70s, you came home, everything was finished. If you really wanted to make an issue, like I said to you before, you picked the phone up, rang somebody and said, "I'm not friends with you," and put the phone down. And that was as sophisticated as we got. What about you? Because obviously you're significantly younger than me.
Not that much younger, but younger nonetheless. So when I was growing up, we had MySpace, which when I was thinking back the other day, it just was like a page. I don't know if it was a bit similar to Facebook. I haven't really got a great memory of it. And MSN, so you'd come home from school, which I suppose is a bit like WhatsApp, but you had to be on your main computer. Okay. And you could chat interactively, but you couldn't be on the house phone at the same time. So you had to obviously disconnect to get onto the internet. But yes, I think even things like that, not really understanding what social media is going to mean long term in terms of what you post, because I didn't know until a young person told me that they'd searched for me online and actually my MySpace profile came up. Well, that is a picture of me from 15, 16. Not the best, a bit cringe like people do at that age. But that picture is now online forever. I have no control over that image because I have no idea if I could even log back on or what my password would be. So absolutely whatever you put online is there forever. You no longer have control over it.
And I think people forget that sometimes. I mean, again, we are professionals. Sometimes I've seen a professional pop something on social media and you think, oh, really? Mm-hmm. You're a professional and you're bound by a code of ethics, and that is up there now. And we've all seen it. Whether you remove that now or not, it is on there. And I think you're right, because we see lots of people. So I'm on Facebook. I'm a minimal poster. I don't post loads. I'm better with I'm saying I'm better. I'm trying to get better with that to make better us stuff. But I'm not a big social media person, and that's probably a bit of a generational and age thing. However, I'm saying that I know lots of people who post in abundance, and it's all sorts of things. It's things about their personal life that I think if we were stood in a bar, would you tell everybody that? Because that's what you've just done.
Absolutely. People post so much about their personal lives. And I was smiling to myself then, because only yesterday someone said to me, Vicky, I've realized that I don't know a lot about you because you don't share a lot online. And I just smiled. I thought there's something quite safe about that, isn't it? Because even with your nearest and dearest, if you want to share something, you could pick up the phone, have a conversation with them or meet them, where some people post every single detail of their life. And for me, and we're going off on a tangent already, as we always do, but for me, it makes me think about their attachment and relationships, because actually what is going on for you that you feel the need to post some of the biggest moments, whether that be positive or difficult moments online? What are you hoping is going to happen in terms of people respond? It draws people in. Are you hoping for that connection from people that you perhaps don't have where you could pick up the phone to them? Like, what is going on for you there? But equally, some people, or a lot of people, don't post their worst moments. So then we're all thinking, oh my God, they've got the perfect life on social media. Mine is awful. And it can really impact people's mental health, can't it?
Absolutely. And it's this, not one of my favorite platforms, but I know definitely a platform that's for younger people. Insta, you talk about Insta, and even again, going off on a tangent. Sorry, everybody. I hope you're keeping up with us. I was watching something random on the telly last night with my eldest, and it was around the life in Dubai. Mm-hmm. And even there, what's that really famous hotel? You know, the one that I mean, that everybody goes to take photos of. And even there, what they were saying is to keep their high-end clients coming back, they make sure that even when they walk in their room, there is a surprise there that is Insta ready. Oh, so that was some of the words that they use in terms of marketing and the need for everything to be seen on this platform, and to people like you say, oh my God, their life is so amazing. And I wonder if there's some masking in there, if we're talking about psychological reasons. I wonder if there is some masking in there. What is the need for you to get validation through a social media post? And I also know of people that over analyze their likes.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think that's why I think it's Instagram, as actually there is no longer a number next to the amount of likes. I think it just says and others or something like that, for that reason, because it can become, and I was going to generalize there and say, especially for young people, but I think adults are absolutely included 100%. In that people become really fixated, don't they, on how many likes that post has got.
Yeah. And then it's how people respond. You feel awful sometimes if you don't like something, because you know that the impact that is going to have on the person, but then that's putting a pressure on other people and disingenuous as well. And I often feel a little bit awkward if people put lots on about their children, because number one, obviously I've got to like it. It's your child. If I don't like it, then there's potentially somebody's going to read into that, and there's a whole host of stuff going on for them. But also, have you asked your child permission to post those? And I know that's something that you're really passionate about, because actually it's consent, and linking it to what you said earlier, it's consent for something that's going to be there forever.
Absolutely. And I think so many adults, parents post pictures of their children. And I think if you've got a closed profile, a private profile, and you have really sort of managed well who you're following or who you're friends with, then there can be something safe in that. However, again, you're still trusting that the people that you're friends with aren't going to take a screenshot of that and share it wider. Yeah. But I know there's lots of people with open profiles that readily share stuff, and you think, oh my goodness, who is that going to? Whose eyes is that going to come in front of? But absolutely. And I think there's a big wave, sadly, I think, of people posting their children's moments of dysregulation. Look at my child having and I'm quoting, meltdown in the supermarket. And actually, I know I wouldn't have wanted some of my worst moments online or other people judging. And I know people post them with a bit of or I'm hoping with a bit of humor. But again, I would have hated that if pictures of me like that were posted on social media or online.
We were talking about this again. I found my parents' old photos and they're bad enough.
Exactly.
Then I found an old, and there'll be people listening today. Yes, I'm going to say a VHS.
Oh,
yeah, really old. This is pre-CDs and DVDs. But yeah, found an old recording from when mum and dad had a really old-fashioned camcorder that probably weighed half a ton, same like a baby elephant, and dad used to have to take it on holiday. But there was one in there from when we went to Spain, and I'm 17. Vicky, it is the very typical. I was a late bloomer, everybody, before you judge. It's a very typical. Can you remember Kevin and Perry?
Yeah.
Oh, teenage. I was like, oh my God, get the camera off me. I hate you. Why are you doing this? Really, I've been embarrassed of it now, and I'm almost 50. But the shame or the horror that brings me, the embarrassment when mum used to get that out in front of anybody. That was a private in our home. So these are people that loved and cared for me and were laughing at me, not with me. With me, not at me. But that, like you said, it goes to such a wide audience in social media. Who's going to be looking at that, and what judgments are they making about me?
Absolutely. And there's something about, isn't there? And again, because I often do posts about sort of taking pictures and videos of your children, because I think there's also a wave of professional parenting pages, or professionals. I wouldn't want to generalize which, but there's lots of professionals that are posting using their own children as in TikTok videos or videos as way of learning. Look at my child, look how I'm attuned to them, look how I'm helping them co-regulate. And again, there's something, yes, there are moments of learning and teaching there, but for me, I feel really uncomfortable that you are using your child as a tool in that situation. And I know people really connect to that, don't they, in terms of the human,
yes,
the fact it's a real person and their real child. But for me, I feel a level of discomfort about the fact they're using their own child to sell their business, to sell their work and things like that. And I know only last week I text you or voice noted you and said, oh my goodness, have you seen some of the conversations on Twitter this week, which was around, which scared me to death, which was around teachers recording in lessons for TikTok videos. And there was massive debates because a teacher had done a post and said he was absolutely disgusted that there was a wave of newly qualifieds using it as sort of a teaching tool. And he said, I'm really concerned about the safeguarding element attached to this. And so many people responded questioning how it was safeguarding if the child's face wasn't in the picture.
Okay. Interesting.
What are your thoughts, Hayley, on that?
Oh, well, I think for me, as you were speaking there, your ethics were obviously coming to the fore, because I think it's not just those. I think about long-standing TV programs where they've followed children from birth up till 25, different sort of, income families, different setups. I feel uncomfortable with those because they're live experiments. These are people's lives. And it doesn't feel right to have a window into somebody's life. And I know, yes, even they're consenting, but I do think there's a bit of a, we've had this whole drama. If you think back a couple of years, Jeremy Kyle, Big Brother, all of these sort of voyeurism, isn't it? Because social media is voyeurism, and the impact that it's had on a lot of people's mental health, how it's affected.
And I think there's something about, isn't there, in terms of so often now we're trying to speak to our children and young people about online safety and about not using technology all of the time. And I'm just thinking, what are we modeling to our children if we as adults are capturing every moment to post on social media or to post somewhere? If even in the classroom they're getting recorded, like we're not modeling that, like in terms of the boundaries and restrictions around technology, in terms of how much learning is actually happening. I know I was an extremely anxious child, and actually if my teacher had been walking around with the phone recording stuff, that would have really increased my anxiety massively, because I'd have been like, oh my goodness, I definitely can't make a mistake or get something wrong or put my hand up or whatever. Like, how much is that impacting children and their learning?
And also it's the impact on everybody. I mean, lots of people listening will know that my other role as well is working with professionals where there's allegations made against them, and it's professionals that work with children. From my perspective in that role, if you're a teacher, you're leaving yourself wide open if you are using social media. And it's not just teachers, sorry to pick on you there, because it's not, it's lots of people. But if you're working with children and you choose to engage with them in social media, you are leaving yourself wide open. So you've got to be a master of confidentiality, of safeguarding within that environment. And the virtual world is causing a lot more issues in terms of my professional role. So I am seeing more issues caused by either it being used within the workplace with children and young people, or used as a way of communication outside school. So I know, our kids grew up in COVID. Teams, they could tell me how to use Teams because they moved on to it quicker than I did. Now, Teams has also caused some issues because there will be people that will message people inappropriately. So again, it's a virtual world. For some reason, people feel they're safe in the virtual world, whereas they wouldn't act in that way in inverted commas real life. Like it's a different world. And I can remember somebody saying to me once, and I have said, I'm not sure if it was you, but it stuck in my head, that allowing your child to go onto their social media alone up in their room is the same as dropping them off at a nightclub and saying, good luck in there. Now, again, I know an issue that we've both talked about is parents that put a couple of years on their children's age so they can get them signed up to Insta or whatever else, Facebook, I don't know what else it is, so they can communicate with their friends. Well, number one, you've just taught your child that it's okay to lie to get to what you want. So when you find them going into a supermarket and buying alcohol at 14, you can't really challenge that because we've already said at 10 that we can pretend we're 13. So you've already put 3 years on top of them. So you've got to question your thinking there. But also, you wouldn't let your 10-year-old into a nightclub. You wouldn't just allow them, drop them off and say, good luck in there with all those grown-ups. But we do in their bedrooms.
Exactly. And I think there's something about, isn't it? Oh my goodness, we're the first to say we're not great with technology at all, but we're open to learning and want to learn because that's how we're going to keep each other and young people safe, isn't it? So I think there's something about, I often have conversations with parents and they're like, oh, it's above my head. Like, I don't understand it. Well,
Yeah.
make it your business to understand. You need to go away, do your research, find out there's so many different apps that restrict things, or that you can cut off technology time at certain times of night so they're not on it all through the night when you've no idea who they're talking to. Ask your young person, oh, help me understand, what does that app do? How does it work? Show an interest, but learn. There's something about, you cannot effectively, in my opinion, parent your child if you're unaware of what's going on. And that, like, you can't use that reason. Like, make it your business to find out.
And my kids have hated me for years. That's nothing new, but that's because I make them leave their phones outside their bedroom doors when they go to bed, because I know what's going to happen.
And isn't that interesting that your girls are older, and I am working with families now where their children are 11, 12 that have their phones all the time?
No. Because as I've said to my kid, and I actually think this links to my generational thing. So I grew up without social media. So it's quite easy for me to imagine a world where there is none.
Yeah.
Because I've lived in it. And I can remember having a conversation with my youngest when she was desperate to get on a phone because her big sister was. And I was saying to her, once we can manage the real world, then perhaps we enter into a fake world. But at the moment, we need to get to grips with what's going on around here. You know, in terms of schools, your social life, relationships, people. Once we get this licked, then maybe we can go into the social media world. But you can't manage this at the minute. So why would I add more complication into that life for you?
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I was just thinking then of perhaps neurodiverse people find it easier to communicate when there isn't all those other things to take into account in terms of what someone's facial expression doing, etc., and the body language. But going back to a point you made earlier, social media or a computer or a screen or a device puts a barrier between you and that person. And people feel more confident or able to say stuff that you absolutely would not dream of saying to someone's face at all. It's like, oh, what's gone on there? Because you wouldn't have said that to my face, but you feel confident enough to put that in a message.
Yeah, it's really
the repercussions diluted, isn't it, almost? Or you're not seeing firsthand that person's response, because even if you send an angry response back, it still takes a little bit of time. It's not instant, is it?
No. And in social media, I guess we're talking about it in terms of children's experiences. So whether you're a parent, carer, whether you're a school teacher and you're working with a child, how social media sort of, you know, fits into that lifestyle. We've talked about grown-ups using social media as well. I'm just conscious of you know, the wonderful platform that we are on as well, adoption and fostering. And again, both you and I have spent a lot of time working with people that are involved in adoption and fostering in all sorts of different ways. Social media has caused some problems in that area, hasn't it? So telling their stories, and
it's caused so many problems. And I think, and again, I might be naive, and I haven't necessarily actively kept up with research, but I think we've been very reactive rather than proactive in that arena, because actually me saying MySpace was around when I was 16, so like 16, 17 years ago, there's something really interesting there, isn't there? I'm not that old. I've just worked out what that would make me.
All right, Vicky, thanks very much for letting everybody know.
There's something about, isn't there, though, how we should have seen it coming. Technology has, and social media has been growing and evolving, but I feel like services that support care experienced young people have been very slow in responding to that. And even over recent years, instead of sort of talking to young people about absolutely tracking down birth family on social media, I feel like we've almost been like, well, let's wait to see if they do. Let's wait until that happens, and then we will respond to that when it does.
Crisis.
Rather than let's talk about how that can be managed, because we know that young people can go and access or are given their birth family history at certain ages. So when we're giving them that information, we need to support them to manage that, because absolutely they can go online and suddenly find birth parents, siblings, aunties, uncles. They can have access to so many people. So we need to support them to manage that. And again, there's something, and I know this is probably going off on a tangent or including something else, but I think there's some, in my experience, some adoptive parents or some professionals that if we don't give children their birth parents' surnames, thinking that that can manage that risk.
Yeah.
Does it really long term? It just makes young people more, well, it'd make me more curious in terms of what are you hiding?
Yeah, and possibly cross with you because you're not being honest with me, and I know you're not. And Facebook, this is the amount of times we've both said it actually to people. Well, Facebook is a wonderful world. You know, it's very powerful. You know, like you said, well, we don't want to tell them this or we don't want to tell them that. They will find out. And there is something about being that person that they find that out from.
Absolutely.
And being that anchor, that stability, that security, that person that, okay, it might be hard, but I know I get what I need from that person, the truth. And it fits into so many things, doesn't it? And we know it comes from love and trying to protect kids from maybe really difficult stuff that have happened to them. But it's an innate need within all of us to find out who we are and where we come from. And social media helps me find that out. I'm probably going to use that.
Absolutely. And when used safely and appropriately, there's something that can be quite positive, I think, in terms of that relationship that it allows people to build, because some people might be living in a different area to where their birth family lives. So it actually provides an interaction and that relationship without them being on the doorstep and having day-to-day involvement in their life. There can be something, if, as I say, safe. But again, it comes back to, doesn't it, where inappropriate things are shared on social media. And that's made me think back to sort of in social work, how sometimes we know that families post things that get them into trouble because actually, well, the only reason I know about this safeguarding issue is because you've posted about it on social media. This perpetrator that you weren't supposed to have contact with, you've put a picture up of you with that person. So there's something
about. It was great
about
to see you this weekend with the kids. Oh, there was no unsupervised time, but we now know that it's happened. Dangerous world. It's a wonderful world as well. Sorry, as soon as I said that, I just thought that's bad because I'm being really negative, ninny on social media, and it's a great. I mean, we're using it today to spread the word. So it's a fantastic thing, and I love to do shopping on my computer. And I have family that lives all over the world, so social media is actually a really cheap way for me to communicate. Whereas in the past, it was phone calls, and that was really expensive. But I think for me, it's almost that you're not stepping out of real life when you're on the computer. It's about maintaining if you're a professional, your professionalism, your conduct, the way that you keep yourself and others safe. That doesn't stop when you get behind that keyboard. And I think there's something in there about helping our young people to understand that. And there's something about us, we would not take photos of our kids and go and put them on street lamps unless they were missing. So in America on the milk cartons or whatever. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that. But a lot of us put photos on of our kids and let everybody see them on social media. I did it once after a holiday, and I regretted it as soon as I did it. I think I spoke to you about it because I was on holiday. I was like, oh my God, my girls look so amazing. Look at them. They're so happy. Took photos of them in bikinis, doing cartwheels on the beach. Really innocent. But then as soon as I saw it on my social media, I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that.
But there's something about learning from it, isn't there? And I guess what we would hope from this conversation today when people listen to it is they just take time to reflect in terms of what are my boundaries in terms of what I'm happy to post or not post. Do I really understand where those images are going to go and trust the people that I'm sharing them with? How would my child feel in the future when they know that I've posted all of this about them? And it's just, as I say, isn't it, taking the time to pause, reflect, and change or tweak what you're doing if appropriate and needed. We're constantly learning. And some of the things that we've spoken about today, people might be like, I didn't know that, or actually, I don't really know how it all works and what my child is up to. Go away and find out. Whether it's asking your young person or going online and Googling it yourself or speaking to someone that is in the know. But it's going out and actively finding out that information rather than just putting your head in the sand.
Absolutely. The same way as if they say, Mum, can I have a sleepover at such and such's house? Yes, you can, but I need to know such and such's address. I would like the phone number of their parents and I'll come and drop you off so I can have a quick conversation with them. We have safety parameters. And I agree with you. It's no different when you enter the virtual world. So just keep you and everybody else safe as you can.
Absolutely.
And enjoy it for what it does bring.
Definitely. And after sort of this goes out, please people respond and give us your opinion, your experience, because we're learning as well. So it's always good to hear what is happening out there and perhaps different experiences at schools or colleges or universities in terms of what they're advocating and what they're promoting. Like it would be really interesting to know.
And we may come across as very old fuddy-duddies, particularly me, talking about social media. So you may have a few lessons that you would like to teach us. Please feel free to let us know what we can do to improve our knowledge on social media. Because like Vicky says, every day is a school day.
Absolutely. And as always, thank you for listening. Give us a follow on the different social media platforms. It now seem hilarious that we're mentioning that. But absolutely, please join the conversation. And yes, we shall connect with you next month.
Yeah, and enjoy the beginning of the summer holidays, everybody. I hope you keep yourselves safe and sane. Take care.
Bye.